All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders, and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. And thank you all so much for joining me for today's episode. This is kind of like a classic Fearcast episode. I'm going into the emails because we've answered all the audio questions. So y'all, if you want your question answered tippity-top in a hurry, toot sweet, go over to fearcastpodcast.com. You can send me an audio question by clicking on the speech pipe button there. You can go over to Instagram. I'm Fearcast Podcast over there. Send me a DM. Click on the little microphone button in the little DM box. Follow me while you're there, I suppose. And send me a message. Record it there. I will get it, listen to it, and likely put it up in a future episode. Y'all know audio questions go to the top of the list. These questions, they were sent in a while ago. It doesn't matter how long ago they were getting in. They're actually relatively soon or early or recent. Recent, that's the way you say it. Just thought I'd get to some of these because why not? Because there's a little bit of a mix. It's going to be a relatively short episode today. I want to just kind of keep it tight, keep it tighter than other episodes have been. Man, when I have an interviewee in on this, man, we just go. We just talk. There are some episodes. I mean, Jenna Overbaugh recently. We went for a while, and we probably could have gone on for a little bit longer. It's best that we didn't. Anyways, so I guess we can get into it. So, where is it? So this is a question and answer based podcast. Send me a message. Go over to fearcastpodcast.com. You can send me an email there. Again, you can send me an audio question. Those go to the top of the list. I will read them, consider them, and likely, like I'm doing today, put them up. Oh, man. And you know what? I've got a bunch of questions in the hopper, and we're going to do this until I run out of questions or die. We'll see which one happens first. And when I stop getting questions and we answer every question that people has sent in, every reasonable question, I do kick out some unreasonable questions or some unreadable, unlegible, I don't know, all over questions. If they're a reasonable question, which 99% of them are, but you get the idea. I'm saving y'all for some very confusing, very long questions. So we're just going to get into this, y'all. Oh, here, I'll say this. For those of you who came out to the OCD SoCal Speaker Series this past weekend, thank you so much for checking it out. I think it's one of the best things that OCD SoCal does. They put on a great show, a great conference. Chris and Liz Tronsden work so ridiculously hard. Everybody on the board of OCD SoCal works so hard for that. And it's so amazing. If you're in Southern California or even in the vicinity, check it out next year. Hopefully they'll ask me back to speak again next year. And by the way, for those of you who went, you will understand this, but I am starting my official grudge against Mr. Chris Tronsden. Now, hear me out. Everyone, I think a lot of people know him. He is I'd call him an OCD celebrity. He is the IOCDF's lead advocate. He is everywhere. He is doing podcasts and Facebook streams and posts constantly. He's everywhere. He's on the red carpet for Pete's sake. But I'll say this. He's asked me so hard constantly in his talks that I was just attending. He was sassing me, making fun of my mustache for some reason. So at the very end, after all the talks, we do this big giant Q&A. All the speakers get up there in a big giant panel, and we go through and introduce. And he was saying something like, "Hey, we're really glad to have all these speakers. These are some of the best OCD therapists and speakers in Southern California, and Kevin Foss." Come on, Chris. So, yes, I can handle the sassing and the razzing, but it's official. I have a grudge, and it's against Mr. Chris Tronsden. So get the word out. Tell him if you see him. Give him a dirty look for me. All right, so I'm going to put that aside for today, and we're going to get on to these questions. So the first question is relatively long, and the answer is going to be relatively short, but I'm going to read it for a reason. The next one is relatively short, and the answer is probably also going to be relatively short. Again, trying to keep it tight today. All right, so this first question comes from someone calling themselves Just OCD, and I'm going to say it again, and you're going to appreciate the next questioner's name. I'll read pretty much whatever you want in the name. So keep your name private, because I want you to know you can send in this question. people aren't going to identify you. Probably, right? So that's why the audio questions are going to, get a little bit of preference because there's a little bit more of a risk of putting yourself out there. But if it's an email, man, say whatever you want. Give me whatever name you want if that's what gives you the confidence to send it in. So this one is Just OCD. That's their name, Just OCD. All right, so here's their question. I'm going to read the whole thing out. They say, hello. I've had OCD basically my whole life. I'm a male in my 30s. I'm very much heterosexual in a committed relationship. I've been in therapy for about 20 years, more serious ERP in the last 6 years, and I've been on Zoloft for 15 years. My OCD has much less control in my life than it once did. POCD, otherwise known as pedophile OCD, has been by and large the most enduring and difficult theme of my OCD. I've gotten to the point where I'm not at all worried that I will harm a child, and I'm even at the point where I'm not worried that I am at all interested in any inappropriate activity with a child. Awesome. It's fantastic. And that's testament to all your hard work in therapy. And then go on to say, what I am having trouble removing, and I think this is the last bit. You just wait until OCD hears you say that. It'll catch you. It'll find something for you. This is the last bit, is the fear that I am more, quote, attracted to male children's faces than I'm, quote, supposed to be as a heterosexual adult. I know the groinal sensations are false, so it's not even those anymore that bother me. They're still there, but not nearly as jarring. It's just hard to shake that feeling that I like the look of young boys' faces more than someone without any shred of pedophilic tendencies would. They say, I'm not really looking for reassurance. They say, obviously, I know it's not a trap, or obviously, I know that's a trap too well now. That's correct. It's correct. Don't use this podcast as reassurance. All right. I'm wondering if you have come across anyone who has ever gotten stuck on this part of their recovery from OCD. If I catch a boy's face out of the corner of my eye, I'll get an immediate and automatic pleasant, combined, kind of coupled with anxiety, of course, sensation, but not with boys' bodies or anything. Is this something anybody else has dealt with? If I fall for the compulsion and stop to study the child's face, all too often I will get confirmation sensations like these OCD jackpot bells going off in my body. I know it is normal to recognize attractive features in any human, regardless of age or gender, and I can recognize the difference between how I feel about an adult woman and how I feel about young boys. But my response to boys' faces seems to check off all these check boxes of, yep, you're a pedophile. I want to say the pleasant feeling is just another false feeling OCD is attached to my target fear, much like the groinal response is or was. Like my OCD has trained my brain to fire off artificially pleasant confirming dings when I ask myself, am I attracted to this, to his eyebrows, to his nose, to his lips? It feels so real, but it's not coupled with any kind of sexual desire. My therapist would say that's all, they would say, that's all I need to go on to continue, would say that's all I need to go on, to continue with ERP, which I'm buying for the most part, but it can be tough and triggering at times because I've never heard or read anybody else experiencing this with just faces. Are you familiar with the tendency in any other sufferers? All right. So that was, what was the name? Just OCD's question. I wanted to read that out because I am 100% confident there are going to be other people listening to this who feel stuck or trapped in some sort of obsession that they've had for a long time. And there's just one little bit that is just hanging on, and it serves as this reminder, this evidence, this this sign, this big sign saying, but it could be real. It might be real because it's there, because it's been here for so long and it's not going away. It must still be real, right? So I've certainly worked with clients where we've done so much and they've accomplished so much and, quote, gotten over so much and they're getting so much of their life back. But there is that one thing that just hangs on and doesn't seem to go away. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle because it plays that mind games with you about, again, it contributes to that story. What if it is real? And because it's holding on so strong, what if it is real? What if there's this kernel of truth in this? So therefore, you might be the thing, or it might be real, or it might happen to you, or it might become true, or you get the idea. I wonder what that thing is for you out there, for the other listeners out there. What's the thing for you that seems to be just holding on, that you can't shake, that sometimes you fall into compulsions about? So what I'll say is this, is that OCD can grab onto anything, to anything you could be worried about, thinking about, anything you could be exposed to, anything you could imagine. You could grab onto that, right? And the problem is we can experience and see and think and imagine a lot. So it can grab onto a lot. But remember, OCD isn't really a thought problem. It's a feeling problem, right? And it's a brain problem. It is the way your brain is grabbing onto and interpreting and twisting and skewing the world around you, right? Its big lie is the way to get out of this terrible, horrible, bad feeling is by solving the content of the obsession. If the obsession is you are dirty and you are contaminated, and that you are going to spread that contamination across town, and you're going to get all these people sick, and it's going to be your fault. It seems as if the solution is, well, I have to solve the contamination problem, right? So I have to wash my hands enough. I have to monitor all the things I'm touching to make sure that it's not me. If it's harm OCD, well, the thought is that I'm a harmful, dangerous, horrible person. Well, I need to make sure then, to solve the content, I need to scour my history. I need to think about all the things I've done in the past, to think about any dangerous, bad, violent thing I could have, might have, or have done. And I need to eradicate it and apologize for it. I need to avoid people to make sure I'm not going to harm them. I need to make sure that I'm really cautious around any dangerous implements around me because, don't you know, if I'm this violent person, I need to avoid that. We could do this for every subtype and everything that you and I can imagine. But as you see, the solution is not through the content. It is through the tolerance of the uncertainty of the question, because it is a feeling problem, okay? There is that your amygdala is taking an imagined scenario, taking that in and spitting out fear. When you said that it feels so real, the feeling is real. The feeling of fear, of danger, of urgency, of, oh no, of you've got to do this, you've got to figure this out. That's real. But the reason that it's there is not. The reason it's there is a figment of your imagination. I know that can be offensive for some people to say. I was going to write an article a while ago that was something, and I might still write it. It was something like, OCD is in fact all in your head, but not the way your uncle thinks, or something like that, right? Kind of this idea of when, people say, you have OCD, they go, oh, that's just all in your head, right? The alternative to it's all in your head is it's a fact. It is real. That's the alternative. So it being in your head, it's this imagined scenario. And it's a potential scenario. Like all these things are possible, but, it's possible that I'm going to get hit by an asteroid right now. It's highly unlikely, and I'm not worried about that, and I don't think you are either. Okay. You said a lot of amazing, great things, right? You recognize that looking for reassurance is just going to be a trap. You recognize that, yes, if you get this giant dopamine rush, you call it the OCD jackpot bells going off in your body when it feels like you're about to solve the problem. And that's how that process works. You get this huge dopamine rush when it feels like you've solved the problem. And that rush, that relief, that joy, it's just a drug that your brain just goes, oh, this feels so good. Let's do that again and again and again and try to get that certainty. So it feels weird, it feels wrong, it feels negligent, it feels dangerous to not do it. So what we need to do instead is to, in fact, not give ourselves that reassurance, that relief, by seeking it out, by hunting it out, by trying to eliminate it. And that's so hard and that's so painful, and I know. And that is why exposure and response prevention is so hard. But you've made so much progress. So you should be commended. I want to high five you. You're not there. High five. Virtual. Anyway, you get the idea. So but I'm wondering, like, how are you still holding on to this fear, right? What are you doing, and how are you holding on to it? And what would it mean for you to continue to have this obsession? So if it didn't change, so this is where I want you to think about this. So well, first of all, let me answer your question. Does this occur? Yeah. Is it about faces? Sure. It's about anything, right? It can be about that. It can be about demons. It can be about another part of someone's body. It can be about a woman's chest, right? I've worked with all sorts of things, right? It can be just the awareness of like stuff on the ground, gum on the wall, right? If someone has contamination obsessions and they really have made a ton of progress, they may still be aware of and cautious of and notice more than other people gum around. I'm just picking on one random thing, but you can kind of see it's going to be this ongoing trigger for them. But my question for you is going to be, if this question or this awareness or this subject was just one of the things that hung around forever, what would you do with it? If you knew that OCD was, that if you, like an oracle came down and said, hey, by the way, OCD, wait, what was it again? OCD, just OCD. If just OCD, if you knew that this, so they said, hey, look, you're not a pedophile, but you are going to notice little boys' faces forever, okay? But you're not a pedophile, but you are going to notice boys' faces and you are going to feel uncomfortable. If you heard that, what would you do? Would you let it go? Would you still fight it? Would you ruminate about it? Or would you accept it? Would you go, okay, I can deal with that. I can manage that. I can deal with the fact that sometimes I'm going to notice boys' faces, right? Now, again, the problem is we don't have an oracle who's going to give you this confirmation. It's going to give you this certainty that says everything's going to be okay. And this is where we need to sit with that uncertainty component. It's uncomfortable. You've gone through years of therapy for this. You worked really hard on this. I bet you've scoured your brain 8 bajillion times and come back to the same answer that doesn't feel like you are attracted to young men or boys or children in any shape, size, or whatever. Maybe trust your compulsive conclusion. Can trust where you've gone with that. And if you trust that, put it into action. And that comes through letting go of trying to solve it, which means accepting that sometimes it's going to show up. And if it just showed up, would you do anything about it? Or would you just go, oh yeah, there's that thought again. That's the thought that shows up from time to time. That's the ghost of OCD past. That is the remnant, right? That's the residue that just exists in my life. And yeah, it gets sticky sometimes. It shows up sometimes more than other times. But I know better than to get into the muck with it. I know better than to fight with it or ruminate about it. So it's something to consider about what you would do with it. So it reminds you of 2 stories, and I'll leave you with these to consider in what you would do with it. One is the one-armed man story, and the other one is my Eggs Benedict story. So one is the man with one arm. Okay, man with one arm goes like this: is imagine a guy who had this amazing life, outdoorsy, did all sorts of things, was very active, and then for some reason lost their arm, some accident, right? They could spend the rest of their life mourning the fact that they lost their arm. They could be angry. They could wonder why this happened. They could be angry at God, angry at the universe, angry at whatever entity it was or ever object or whatever situation that caused them to lose their arm. And they could spend their life just being bitter and start becoming aloof and start to shrink away from the life that they had and just become a shell of themselves and say, well, because I don't have 2 arms, I can't live my life. I'm not going to be able to have joy or excitement or adventure. I'm not going to be able to function as well as everybody else as I should have because I was meant to have 2 arms. I had 2 arms for all these years. Everybody else out there seems to be so happy with their 2 arms. Look at all the 2-armed things they're doing. But then there's me, 1 arm. What a loser. What an awful person. My life is garbage now. Fill in the blank with any pirate language you would like to use. They could spend their life doing that if they really wanted to. Might not be a happy life. It might lead them to not doing things, not trying to do things, not engaging in things of meaning, of value, that could bring them joy and excitement. Instead, they chose avoidance and sadness and anger. But if that one-armed man said, this is my life now, I have 1 arm, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have the best one-armed life that I possibly can. I'm going to go out there and do as much as I can with one arm. And it may not be as full, as fast, as free, as easy as somebody else's two-armed life. But I've got my one-armed life, and gosh darn it, I'm going to go get as much of my one-armed life as I can. I'm willing to bet that person, if he took that perspective, they're going to find greater freedom in their life. I wonder about that for you. If you were to say, this is just the thought that shows up for me from time to time, it sucks, and I don't like it, and I don't want it. I would rather not, but I'm not going to waste my time ruminating about it. I'm going to go live my life. And if I see a young man over there, I'm going to notice their face, I'm going to get that thought again. You know what I'm going to do? Nothing. All the same stuff you've been doing. You go, oh yeah, there's the ghost of OCD past. There's the obsession I used to struggle with all the time. Well, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to keep going. I'm willing to bet you're going to be more open, more free. And if it was one of those things that even if it caught you from time to time, if you let go of it and accepted it as just a function of your brain, as for whatever reason your brain wanted to focus on that, I bet there'd be greater freedom in your life. My Eggs Benedict story goes like this. So I love Eggs Benedict. I think it's great. It's delicious. It's if I'm going out for breakfast and they sell it, guess what? That's what I'm getting. 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm getting. And you know what? It's probably going to be 10 times out of 10. I can't think of a time I've gone out to breakfast in the past 10 years that I haven't gotten that, if it was available. The person who introduced me to that was my college girlfriend. Now, I did not marry my college girlfriend. She was great. She was awesome. We broke up for a number of reasons. She went her life. I lived my life. Now, she introduced them to me, and I associate them with her. Now, here's the problem, though. Because my brain does this weird thing where I like, if I have things that I've bought, like I remember where I bought them, how I bought them. Sometimes I remember exactly like how much it was, the circumstances that like I got it in. Like I have a lot of, this is the way my brain works. But here's one of the problems. It's one of the problems. So I go out to breakfast with my wife and my kids. And guess what? I'm going to order Eggs Benedict. And guess what? Guess what thought comes to mind? College girlfriend. Now, is that offensive? Is that wrong? Is that bad? Am I a bad person for having that thought? Should I eradicate that thought? Should I not be thinking of her? Should I not have that thought in the first place? Should or shouldn't I do? And it's there. So what do I want to do with it? The first thing I have to do is accept the fact that that thought is going to show up. It is. And when it does, what do I want to do with it? And that's the question for everybody out there who has these obsessions. It's to say, it's not your fault that you have these thoughts, but it is your responsibility. So it's not your fault that you have these thoughts about boys' faces, but it's your responsibility. What are you going to do with it? How much time do you want to devote to it? 5 minutes, 5 hours, or nothing, or as little as possible? I would encourage you to do that one. And obviously, I know that that's your effort, that's what you're trying to do. But I think that's part of the experience of first accepting that maybe this one is going to be there forever. Not with the expectation that life can only begin once all of the obsessions are gone, or you can only experience happiness when you've eradicated all OCD, because you may never get there. And that's okay. You can still have a full life. I am having a full life with my wife and kids with my Eggs Benedict thought. And that's okay. So that's what my encouragement would be for you and my encouragement for everybody else out there. So next question. I'm hoping this one's going to be fast because I realize I yammered on more than I should do. So this person's name is Salamander. And again, great name. I love this. Here's what I love even more. It's super short. They got real to the answer, or real to the point. Here it is. Salamander asks, if there was someone, yes, if there were someone, I wonder who. We're talking about Salamander. Anybody? All right. If there were someone who was afraid of being dishonest and or the feelings of guilt as a result of being dishonest, what would be some ideas for exposures that don't involve telling white lies? Oh, Salamander. Okay, first off, that was their question. Whole question. I love it. Folks, send in those tight questions. Bring it in. tighten it up, read it, consider it, bink, get it shorter, likelier chance of it getting answered faster. Okay, so, and I can answer more. All right, here's the thing. All right, so my question for you, Salamander, is what is the core fear? What is so bad about lying? What is so bad about being dishonest? Now, I think that's an important question to ask because all exposures are going to depend on that. Anything that I could say or make up, which I'm going to make up some things for you, anything that I could say is just going to be roundabout. It's like vague things. I was reminded of this. I have this book. Somebody mentioned there's a book. What is it? Is it in the other room? Oh man, it's in the other room. Oh no, there it is. It's called The Big Book of Exposures, right? It's supposed to be, and it's a decent book if you're getting started in OCD land. It's a big book of exposures. So if you're doing exposure therapy and you're like, what do I do? You're like, well, they've got fear about, they've got existential fears. Let's go to the existential chapter. Look in the book. It says, well, we've got to read Immanuel Kant. We've got to read that. And we've got to read other philosophers, and then we're going to be okay. Book closed, therapy done, folks. Super easy. It's not. Because it may not be about that. It may be about something entirely different. The question for you, again, is going to be, what is the fear of lying? Why is that such a hang-up for you? Is it that you're worried that you're going to be a bad person? Is it sin? So you're sinning. So therefore you could offend God. You could go to hell. You could, whatever the negative consequence is in your religious tradition. Is it social rejection? Liars are bad and we don't want to be around bad people. So, let's kick them out of the circle, right? Is it a slippery slope to infidelity? Or is it a slippery slope to murder? I don't know. But you can see with all those different examples, the core fear is what's really important because it's not about just telling white lies or being dishonest. It could be, well, you're worried that if you're a dishonest person, you're going to end up cheating on your partner rather than it being that you're sinning. Because you may be a staunch atheist and no care about that whatsoever. But the worry about infidelity is so much more important, right? So if I say, well, let's do some exposures about lying, and let's find some Bible verses where they talk about lying, and there are, where there are these disastrous consequences to it. It's not going to mean anything to you. But if it's about infidelity, that's going to be more important. So that's what I want you to consider, right? Now, I will also say, this reflects a value of yours, right? It reflects that you do want to care about, you do care about being a good person, and you want to try to be a good person. That's what it sounds like. But I'll say this, the avoidance of telling lies, white lies or otherwise, won't free you from the obsession. Okay, if you're holding on to this as this tremendous avoidance, and I get it that you're not wanting to, or right now you're not ready to do that type of exposure. That's okay. But if you continue and maintain this, to hold on to this, OCD is going to continue to fester. I promise you that, because it's going to find a way back with that. Now, we could do acceptance and commitment therapy with this, meaning that you're not going to do exposures to that. But you have to be open to the possibility of it, right? You have to notice the anxiety that comes up with a thought that's there. You have to accept the presence of that thought, right? You have to recognize that it's coming from your mind. It doesn't have anything to do with you or your intention or your action in lying, but it's like one of those thoughts. And then you have to, make commitment, committed steps towards your values, right? You get the idea. But let's say this. I'll give you a situation. So let's say I'm going to ask you the question, what color socks did you wear last week? Right? Now, you might go white, obviously. I wear white tube socks all the time. All right, that may be. But sometimes you might wear a suit. Sometimes you might wear colored socks. You might funky doodle and you might want to wear colored socks. I myself have black socks with purple polka dots on them, because that's what I do. I have socks with pigeons on them. I have socks with raccoons on them. I got all sorts of weird socks. So if I were to ask you what color socks you had last week, specifically last Tuesday, you might say, I don't remember. Or you could say, I don't remember. You could say, well, let me think about it for a minute. You scour your brain and try to remember. But, you may not get to the right answer, right? So you might just say, I just don't know, right? But that may not get you out of it because there may still be a sense of doubt. There may still be that question of, if I just scoured enough, I might be able to figure out the answer. So it's not going to let you off the hook, because in saying I don't know or I don't remember, anxiety, because it's disastrous like this, may round that up to lying, because it's not that you don't remember, it's that you chose not to remember. So it might still say, you told a white lie here because you said you don't remember. You didn't put the effort in to find it, right? Now, even if you scoured your brain to try to figure out and you went, you know what, last Tuesday, I was going to school, and on that day, I know I had track, so I wore my track socks, and I know my track socks are always white. All right. Well, your brain might then say, yeah, but are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? And pull you back in and say, maybe that was a lie. Are you sure you did track on Tuesday? Anyways, you get the idea. It can still pull you back in. So I really want to highlight the importance of the fact that trying to hold on to not telling white lies isn't going to save you from this, okay? My other question for you is, where does the fear of lying come from? What happens if you do, in fact, lie? And in your life, is there an atonement process for lying? If we tell lies that are, bad or consequential, and they are, problematic, there needs to be an atonement process, right? Even if it's think about like a religious thing. If you did tell a lie and lying is bad and you got caught in it, every religion has a way out, right? There's an atonement process. There's a thing you do. There's a thing that you shake, a phrase that you say. There's a dance that you do. There's a washing that you engage in. There's something, right? There's something that you can do to get you out of that. If it's lying and you accidentally told a lie to a person, well, if they're offended by it or if it's problematic, you can say, hey, you know what? I realize I didn't tell you the whole truth. I'm sorry about that. That is the atonement process, right? It's not big, but it's something. What does it mean for you to lie, and where does that concern come from, and why is that so important? Those are things that I really need you to figure out and talk to a therapist about and try to hash this out. Because again, all of that will guide what sort of exposures that you do. To that end, what compassion are you giving yourself for being human? You're a human. And sometimes we're going to tell lies, whether we want to or not. Sometimes we tell a lie accidentally. Sometimes we tell one unintentionally. What time did you get into work today? 8:30. It's actually 8:31. Was that a lie? Was that dishonest? According to OCD, I bet it might say yeah. But it's when we tell these half-truths or untruths or white lies or outright lies, we need to find a way to accept our humanity in it and acknowledge that we're all fallen, broken people who aren't perfect, who are going to make mistakes, who are going to tell lies or do things against our value system, because sometimes we have to rearrange our value system for the scenario. I've given this example before. If my wife comes after me and she says, hey, do I look fat in this? The answer is always no. And it doesn't matter what she looks like. The answer is always no. I think I'm going to go like, yeah, honey, you look like a cow in that. The answer is always no. And for some people out there, that might be a white lie. But again, it's in my value to not lie. It's also in my value to not be a jerk to the missus, right? Or to say things that are going to hurt her feelings, or to say things that will, again, make her feel bad, right? So we might have to rearrange that. Is there room for that in your life? Or is there this rigidity that doesn't let you out and is holding you there and is no longer serving you, but is actually making things worse? You can think about what OCD has taken from you, how it has limited your life, not given you something that's been helpful. Values are guidelines to help you live a freer life, a more meaningful life. I'm not hearing that in this. I'm hearing this rigidity that is just limiting. So that's something to consider. In the recovery process, you have to be at the risk of telling lies. You don't have to actually, you may not have to tell lies, but you have to be at the risk of telling lies, which means Response prevention. It means going out and living life and checking what your compulsions are, noticing what your compulsions are, checking, silly, noticing what your compulsions are and being honest with yourself about what you do to make sure that you are being fully 100% honest. Is it, I wrote down some examples for you, monitoring what you're saying all the time. Is it mentally reviewing past interactions to evaluate whether or not you did or didn't tell a lie, so therefore who you should be honest to and apologize to? Is it overly apologizing or correcting what you said, right? Is it reviewing emails or texts to make sure that you didn't include any half-truths in there, right? So checking what those things are and resisting those, pulling back on those, slowly but surely pulling back on those. And again, it's being at the risk that maybe you told a lie. Maybe not that you actually did tell a lie, or you went out there and you were lying to all those people. And again, some of those white lies that I encourage my clients when they have this concern, they might say, I might ask them to go and tell a white lies, right? Hey, what socks did you have on? Blue. Cool. No one cares. And it's not completely honest. Or you might say they were white socks. They might have been white socks, but they had a little gray stripe on it, but you didn't see the gray part, you freaking liar. It might be that, right? It might be, again, what time did you get to work today? I got to work today at 8:29. No, you didn't. You got there at 8:30 on the dot. It doesn't matter, though. But to OCD, it matters most importantly, right? So again, you don't have to. I know there are people, it's in their value system to not lie, and that's great. It's going to be limiting. It's going to be hard. But first and foremost, we need to pull back on compulsive behavior, sitting with the possibility that maybe you did lie, sitting with the feelings that you get of guilt and of anxiety when you don't have the answer about whether or not you did or didn't lie. That's what's going to be important. Okay, so you want some exposure ideas? Here are some exposure ideas. 1, scripting. Write out stories where you told these lies and all the consequences, all the fallout that came from it, right? Girlfriend broke up with you. Boyfriend broke up with you. Both your girlfriend and your boyfriend broke up with you. Your mistress left you. Your mister murdered your dog. You lost your job. Your car exploded. God came down and whacked you right on the forehead and said, "How dare you?" I think that's the voice of God. Anyways, just writing this story out, tolerating that you told this lie, even if you might have kind of told a sort of kind of lie. That's the story you tell. Whatever it is that raises your anxiety, that's the part that you tell. You can watch movies, right? You can watch the movie Liar, Liar. Classic movie, solid movie. I haven't watched it in a long time. I want to see if it holds up. I'm fearful of whether or not it does or does not hold up. But that one, it's a good one. Watch the movie Invention of Lying. It's fine. It's fine. It's a good movie. It's a Ricky Gervais movie. It's a movie. But the whole point is lying, and he tells these lies. So watch this movie, and it may be uncomfortable. I would say also watch stand-up comedians. Their job is kind of lying. They're making up these stories. 99%, well, I don't know. A lot of times they're making up these stories because they're funny. But they're lies. They're going to say, oh, I did this thing last week. They didn't do that thing last week. They did that thing 8 years ago, but they wrote it in their joke book, and they finally figured out a punchline for it. That's what they're telling you. But it's not as good of a joke to say, I did this thing 8 years ago, rather than, you know what, yesterday I did this thing. It feels more relevant as a joke. So they're telling it like that. But it's a lie. It's a dirty, filthy lie. Anyways, just some ideas. The other thing you could do is to start every day with the phrase, I might tell a lie today. And you're going to sit with the discomfort that comes from that. And you're going to go live your day and say, I might tell this lie. And you might. And when you do, you're going to give yourself compassion and acceptance and support and love and encouragement. And get on with your day. So, all right, Salamander, thank you so much for this question. Just OCD, thank you so much for your questions. Folks, this podcast has been going on we've been doing this for almost 8 years. Can you imagine? 8 years. This is crazy. I wrote in my notes, this was 274. That's crazy. And by the way, I've decided I'm going to do another Phobia Friday series. I think it's been enough years that I think another Phobia Friday series is in order. So look out for that in the future. Also look out for a upcoming POCD men's support group online. This will be a nationwide group. We are going to be opening that up shortly and soon. If you have questions about it, send me an email. You can send it to my work email. It's kevin@calocd.com. That's my private practice. Go check it out. Send me an email. But everybody else out there, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye.